On a crisp October morning in 2024, in the quiet cul-de-sacs of Willow Creek, Virginia, I was savoring my coffee when the last thing I expected crashed into my Saturday. At 6:30 a.m., a squad of HOA enforcers stormed up my driveway like they were reenacting a military siege. 7 of them, decked out in navy jackets emblazoned with Willow Creek HOA Patrol in bold, glaring letters, marched with purpose. Leading the charge was Margaret, our HOA president, striding forward with a clipboard gripped like a battle standard and a scowl that could curdle milk. Her expression hovered somewhere between smug satisfaction and bureaucratic rage. I stifled a laugh until one of her minions, with way too much enthusiasm for Dawn, thrust a stack of official-looking papers at me and declared, "You're evicted, effective immediately." My wife, Lila, still in her robe, coffee mug in hand, stumbled downstairs, her eyes narrowing as Margaret launched into a tirade. The legal notice was a mess, typos galore, wild accusations of unauthorized deck repairs, excessive wind chimes, and, yes, our son's treehouse being an eyesore. Eviction. 24 hours. The words cut through the nonsense like a blade. Our kids, barely awake, peered out the window, thinking it was some bizarre parade. I tried reasoning, keeping my voice steady despite surviving opportunity to flip the board over my landscaping. Margaret just snapped her fingers, and her crew started photographing my yard like they were crime scene investigators. "Your fence is 3 inches too tall." Lila's car registration lapsed last week. "The treehouse is visible from the cul-de-sac." Margaret's eyes gleamed with control, her voice dripping with the thrill of power. This wasn't about rules, it was about dominance. I knew arguing with Margaret was like debating a brick wall. Her board had voted in secret last night, she said, waving her notice like a royal decree. "You have until noon tomorrow to leave." Her sidekick, Harold, a retired bookkeeper who nodded like his neck was spring-loaded, backed her up. The rest of her posse, Eleanor, Victor, and the Miller sisters, notorious for nitpicking every mailbox, circled like vultures. Neighbors started gathering, some whispering, some filming, one guy giving me a silent thumbs up. Lila, cool as ever, demanded to see the paperwork. Margaret bristled, muttering about their lawyer, her cousin, who advertises on strip mall billboards and can't spell litigation. Lila's lips twitched. That slow, dangerous smile meant Margaret was in for a reckoning. As the HOA goons retreated to harass our neighbor for planting non-approved daisies, Lila made a call not to a lawyer or the news, but to a number I didn't know. She vanished upstairs, coffee still in hand, and returned with a grin. "Let them try," she said, her eyes glinting. "They don't know who they're messing with." By evening, Margaret's minions were back, taping orange violation markers on our fence and snapping photos like paparazzi. Neighbors grew bolder, some cheering us on, others terrified they'd be next. Lila, unfazed, looked almost amused. That night, on our porch, she held a diplomatic envelope, the kind you don't just get at the post office. "What did you do?" I asked, half joking if she'd called her cousin, the consul. She just winked. "Something better." Sunday dawned sharp and bright. At 10 a.m., 3 black SUVs rolled up, tiny diplomatic flags flapping on their hoods. Lila strolled out, coffee in hand, greeting a woman in a tailored suit and heels that could double as weapons. She spoke fluent Arabic, her voice smooth as silk, and the diplomat friend, it seemed, hugged her warmly. Margaret, watching from her porch, froze mid-rant, her face a slideshow of shock. Neighbors popped out like groundhogs. Eleanor's blinds twitched. Victor dropped his phone. Even Harold, usually Margaret's echo, stepped back. The diplomat, cool as ice, declared our eviction an international issue since Lila, a dual citizen, co-owned the house. Margaret tried to interrupt, waving her typo-riddled notice, but the diplomat's glare could have frosted glass. "This is now consular business," she said. Margaret's jaw worked silently. Then the news van pulled up. Someone had tipped them off about a diplomatic showdown in suburbia. Lila handed the reporter a statement, her accented English crisp, calling out the HOA's arbitrary and discriminatory actions. The diplomat scanned Margaret's paperwork, raised an eyebrow, and said, "Is this serious?" The cameras caught it all. That clip would haunt Margaret for weeks. Margaret, desperate to regain control, ranted to the reporter about outsiders tanking property values. The diplomat countered, citing city code and international law, warning that forcing us out would spark a formal protest. Margaret's voice cracked. Neighbors snickered. The embassy team set up a folding table in our yard for an impromptu mediation. Margaret quoted obscure bylaws. The diplomat dismantled them with legal precision. Lila slid over a folder every HOA letter, fine, and threat, neatly organized. The diplomat held up a note about our unapproved Halloween lights. "Your handwriting?" she asked. Margaret stammered, then pivoted. The city attorney's office was already looped in, and the HOA's actions were now under scrutiny. The power shifted. Neighbors cheered. Eleanor passed out iced tea. The diplomat announced a formal investigation into the HOA. No action against us could proceed. The SUVs left with a thud of doors, and Margaret fled behind her gate as the reporter's mic chased her. The next morning, the story was everywhere. The diplomats, "Is this serious?" clip ricocheted online, comments roasting Margaret mercilessly. Realtors called, offering to buy our house, gnomes and all. Our son asked if the flag lady was coming for waffles. Lila, still in her robe, texted in 3 languages, her calm now edged with steel. At 9 a.m., a city official, Ms. Carter, arrived with 2 officers. Neighbors abandoned sprinklers to watch. Carter toured our property, reviewed Lila's files, and noted the orange tape still flapping. Margaret hovered, trying to insert herself, but her bluster fell flat. Lila laid out Margaret's history finds conjured from thin air, rules weaponized against newcomers, the eviction as pure revenge for Lila refusing a board seat. Carter asked if the HOA followed legal process. Margaret deflected to her cousin's expertise, but Carter wasn't buying it. Lila handed over an embassy letter requesting city oversight. Carter nodded. The eviction was suspended, and the HOA faced investigation. Neighbors clapped. Victor apologized. Harold vanished. Margaret didn't quit. She launched a social media blitz, painting herself as the victim of foreign interference. Lila countered with a screenshot of the city's suspension order and a polite, "Contact City Hall." The likes poured in. But Margaret's minions kept up petty complaints: our trash cans, our porch light, our illegal bird feeder. Lila forwarded each to Carter, who promised swift action. The neighborhood woke up. A group chat buzzed with HOA horror stories, uniting people who'd never spoken. Margaret's grip was slipping. Days later, Margaret sued us, the city, the embassy, and 3 neighbors, claiming we'd defamed her and ruined community cohesion. Neighbors panicked, but Lila called a yard meeting. Carter and the diplomat returned, assuring legal support. A neighbor, Sanaa, delivered notarized statements exposing Margaret's forged signatures and threats. Her uncle, a retired judge, offered pro bono defense. Evidence piled: mails, recordings, minutes showing years of shenanigans. At the hearing, the judge tore through Margaret's claims, dismissing the suit and suspending HOA powers for a full audit. The crowd roared. A new committee formed to rewrite bylaws, and the bloc partied like never before. The audit was brutal. At Eleanor's picnic table, officials uncovered Margaret siphoning thousands via fake vendors and ghost events. She strutted in, blazer starched, but was reduced to a witness. Her cousin fumbled objections. The diplomat, now in civies, noted the fund's misuse was documented, and the city promised charges. Lila thanked the crowd, saying the win wasn't Margaret's fall, but the neighborhood's rise. Margaret faced arrest quietly. Her house sold fast. Her cousin vanished. The HOA became a punchline. The street bloomed wildflowers, barbecues, kids playing freely. New bylaws prioritized respect. At sunset, Lila squeezed my hand. "All I wanted was a home," she said. The real victory was neighbors choosing courage over fear, building a community that finally felt like ours. So what do you think? Was Lila's diplomatic power play genius or overkill? Should neighbors have fought sooner, or was the escalation inevitable? Could Margaret have redeemed herself, or was she too far gone? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more wild stories.